Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Form handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I are going to take a look at two Kentucky Derby qualifying points races. The Grade 2 Risen Star Stakes at the Fairgrounds, the $100,000 El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate Fields, plus bonus coverage of a wide open edition of the Grade 3 General George Stakes at Laurel. JK's play of the day, he's got a daily double at Santa Anita. David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight focuses on the Risen Star, while Nicole Russo's Pedigree pick zeroes in on the El Camino Real Derby. Plus horses to watch, best bets, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, you found a Shug McGahee trainee that found some trouble at Gulfstream.
Yeah, I like getting Shug in the mix here. This is Bar Harbor's debut, 3-year-old colt with a big pedigree, making his career debut on turf. We'll put the replay up. This horse always down towards the inside. You can see him here starting to rally. Can't get out to the clear. So Jose Ortiz is going to have to try and do it the hard way. He's going to have to try and find somewhere to run here. This horse actually finishes very well in this race because from this point on, he's really never clear. Even coming down to the finish here, he's not going to be able to find a lane to run to. Still going to get second anyway. This is a very promising debut for a horse who has a huge pedigree.
Giant pedigree, should improve with experience and maybe even a little bit more distance. Matt, your horse to watch took a stakes race last week at Tampa Bay Downs. Are you willing to go on record and saying this is an under-the-radar Kentucky Oaks prospect?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think at this point, if you're not blown away by any of the big girls at this point, why not take a look at a horse like Point of Honor, who goes out for George Weaver? This was her second lifetime start, first time against winners. Happened to be in the Suncoast last weekend at Tampa. Let's roll that tape here. Look, she's on the far outside, and I understand a lot of people have made it clear that they think that the outside is where you wanted to be at Tampa on this day. I just loved everything about it, though. I thought this was a really professional effort for her. I like the way that she finished. And she's another one with some pedigree. You know, she's a sibling to a stakes winner. The Dam is a sibling to 3 stakes winners, 3 graded stakes winners, doing a little bit of everything. West Virginia Derby winners, Wilshire winners, down the hill in the Daytona winners. So I think there's a lot here to like. This is a daughter of Curlin, again, for George Weaver. I don't think we've heard the last of Point of Honor.
My horse to watch is a 3-year-old as well. This one is trained by Steve Asmussen. His name is Captain Von Trapp. He ran 3 times at Churchill Downs as a 2-year-old and was a money burner. Beaten favored all 3 times, found trouble all 3 times. Made his seasonal debut at Oaklawn the other day with the addition of blinkers, and it looks like he's going to find trouble again. He's the number 4 in the White Silks in between horses on the turn in this race, and in about a second or two, he's just going to run right up on heels and check all the way out. And if you follow Captain Von Trapp's first 3 starts, you're saying, well, here he is. He's going to lose at a short price yet again. But Captain Von Trapp, to his credit, is going to recover. The jock isn't going to panic. He's going to split horses pretty professionally here, and he's going to angle out to split horses 5 wide turning into the stretch. And once Captain Von Trapp gets into the clear, he runs these horses down in the lane. I wonder if the blinkers have gotten this horse to focus a little bit. And while Captain Von Trapp only earned a 75 Buyer's speed figure, I think this horse is still learning. I'm not saying he's a stakes horse right now, but I'd like to see Asmussen take it slow with him, either at Oaklawn or at the Fairgrounds, keeping him at shorter sprint distances, and maybe finding the next available condition, a non-winners of one other than. This is a son of Trap Shot that cost $290,000 last year, and I like the way he overcame trouble in that race. Keep an eye out for Captain Von Trapp maybe in an N1X over the next month or so. Time for some handicapping. The Risen Star is one of 2 Kentucky Derby qualifying point preps this week. Let's get to it. Let's throw up the field for the feature race at the Fairgrounds on Saturday. Kentucky Derby qualifying points on the line and the $400,000 Grade 2 Risen Star Stakes at 1 1/16. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races on Saturday and Sunday, plus lots more, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, the number 13 Kingly will scratch. We'll talk about him later. He is entered and is the morning line favorite in the El Camino Real Derby. Let's start with the second choice on the morning line, Owendale, coming off a win at the Fairgrounds. It looks like this horse has some upside.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't show that replay because of political reasons. Let's go back to his maiden score all the way back at Indiana Grand. You're going to see this is a miserable trip in the grand scheme of things, but ultimately he weaves his way through. And I think this was sort of the piece that showed off that perhaps this is a horse that has a future ahead of him. To me, the key with Owendale for this race, and we talked about it in the stakes preview, it depends on which figures you believe based on his most recent Fairgrounds race. The 91 buyer makes him a competitor, and right there is one of the main contenders. Timeform US, the raw figure that they awarded him was a 95, and there's usually about a 20-point differential between the two. If you believe the 20-point sort of theory, that means that one is either really high or one is really low. I just want to know at a short price, you know what, I don't need to marry myself to that 91 buyer. I'm going to side with Timeform on this one.
Now, this is the second race on the Louisiana road to the Kentucky Derby. The first one was the Lecomte, and Mike, your top selection missed that race. He had a little bit of an illness, but when he was stretched out last year by trainer Brett Calhoun, we noticed immediate improvement, and he was in with a big chance turning into the stretch of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Yeah, we're talking about number 3, Mr. Money. It'll be interesting to see what he does here because he did miss his last start with a little bit of an issue, but hopefully everything is okay with him because, in my opinion, if you're going to play this race, the horses coming out of the Lecomte, I don't really think you want the horses that were just beaten by War of Will. We'll see what happens. Maybe somebody could turn the tables on that horse. We're going to talk about War of Will in a minute because both of you guys decided to chalk it out in this race and take that horse. I think he is the horse to beat. I also think he's 2 for 2 on dirt with a couple of really soft trips. And now he's got post 14 or post 13 with a scratch. So we'll see if he can overcome it. I'm going to try and beat it with Mr. Money, though. Let's look at his Breeders' Cup. This horse, as you mentioned, Dan, they stretched him out for the first time 2 starts back. I thought he looked good winning that race. He got a nice trip, but I thought he looked good winning it. He ran well in this race. This is probably the best that he could do at this stage of his career. He got a really good trip. He was in the mix at the top of the stretch, and he's just not good enough. He's going to get out finished late in this race and settle for 4th. But all in all, this isn't a poor performance. If he can take a step forward off of this race and get a better trip this time from an inside post, maybe he's got a shot to pull off an upset.
Breeders' Cup Juvenile has already produced 3 next out winners. Matt, a great man once told you, get the chalk off your suit.
He certainly did, and guess what? I'm going with the chalk again here, like Mike said. Look, War of Will, I really liked him going into the Lecomte. I thought he sort of proved that he was much the best in there. And like Mike said, I don't know that you want to take anyone to finish behind this horse. And unfortunately for me, the fresh faces, they just don't do much for me. Again, we can't show the Lecomte. Let's go back to the Bourbon. This was at Keeneland on grass. And I think, again, this is a horse that to me has never run a poor race. He's been in some really difficult positions for a number of these starts, whether he's out there setting out fast fractions, whether he's on a boggy turf course and staying on with it, or ultimately proving himself that maybe the main track's actually better than the grass for him. I just think he's a quality horse. Call me the chalk-eating weasel here. I just think he's much the best in here. Look, it'll be disappointing to me if he drops a clunker. If he shows up and runs well and does what he's supposed to do, I think it's on to the Louisiana Derby.
Make it 2 chalk-eating weasels. I'm going with War of Will as well. Very impressed with everything I saw in the Lecomte, beating 5 of these common rivals. Yes, he had a good trip, and this outside post can be a bit disconcerting, but with his tactical speed, I can see him getting into a similar situation. Stalking the pace 3, 4 wide, brushing on the turn, and he's just a big, good-looking horse that does everything professionally. I think War of Will just might be physically and mentally ahead of these horses right now. I think he could take another step forward, albeit at a short price in the Risen Star. Nicole Russo's pedigree pick segment this week, very important. The El Camino Real Derby is not only on a very tricky all-weather surface, the Tapeta at Golden Gate Fields, but also at a demanding 9-furlong distance. She gives you the scoop on which pedigrees to look out for.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate. We're going to take a look today at the field to the El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate, which actually offers the winner an automatic berth into the Preakness, as well as 10 qualifying points toward the Kentucky Derby. Kind of a mixed bag in this field, as you've got 3-year-olds, most of them stretching out on a synthetic surface, so a surface change for some of them. But there were a few pedigrees and records in here that immediately jumped off the page to me. Eagle Song is a winner on synthetic in Ireland. He's making his 3rd start in the U.S. He was most recently 2nd in an allowance optional event at Santa Anita, and finishing 3rd there was another well-bred horse in this field, Weekly Call by Will Take Charge out of Grade 1 turf winner Summer Saray. Eagle Song is from the first crop of the Stat Daddy son, No Nay Never, who was Europe's breakout freshman sire last year. No Nay Never, the sire of 6 stakes winners, including Group 1 winner 10 Sovereigns and Group 2 winner Land Force. I'm excited to see more of them in the U.S. and excited to see what they do stretching out. None never did his best work at shorter distances, but Scat Daddy can obviously sire a route horse, and they perform on multiple surfaces. Bob Baffert sends out Kingly, a debut winner who was then second last out in an allowance optional to Grade 1 place Extra Hope. Now, Kingly may be the best bred horse in this field by Tap It and out of Just Whistle Dixie, making him a full brother to Grade 2 winner Mahayman and a half to Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner New Year's Day. Distance, no problem, but the female family is pure dirt, so it's curious to see him in this spot. Tap It has sired runners like Champion Stardom Bound and Hanson, who could certainly run on synthetic, and turf horses like Grade 1 winner Tap It Fly. Also, when I looked at Mahayman, who is now a young stallion at Shadwell last fall, something about the shape of his foot and his way of moving made me think that he can go on to sire turf runners. It's just a gut feeling, so who knows? Kingly obviously has some class, and I'll be really curious to see what he does. And lastly, a quick glance at Royal Insider, bred by Airdrie, now running for Godolphin. He's still a maiden after 4 starts, 3 of those on dirt, coming off a well-beaten fifth behind well-regarded Nolo Contesto and Omaha Beach on the dirt. He's by Divine Park, whose best runner is champion turf mare Lady Eli, and his dam is half to an English Stakes winner. The El Camino Real, one of 4 scoring races toward the Kentucky Derby this holiday weekend. The Risen Star on Saturday at Fairgrounds offers the winner 50 points. The Hyacinth on Sunday is the penultimate race in Japan's Road to the Derby Series. And the Southwest on Monday at Oaklawn offers the winner 10 points. We're taking a closer look at all of the weekend's action here on Out of the Gate, and we'll bring you more after this break.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, TIMEFORM US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Great card at Laurel on Saturday. Big field, stakes action. One of the big centerpieces is the DRF Bet Saturday race of the day. The Grade 3 General George Stakes, $250,000 is the purse. You can access free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. And for expanded stakes previews of many of the major races all weekend long and lots more, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Big field, we're looking for big value. Matt, you've got big speed.
Yeah, big speed and a big price, 21 on the morning line. This is a race I found really difficult. I think the favorite might be somewhere in that 4-1, 9-2 range. I'm going to the far outside, the number 14 in here. Long May You Run. Now, the thing with this horse, like you alluded to, Dan, he's got speed, and I think there's a real scenario. If he's not outright on the lead, he is pushing the pace. Let's go to his most recent run. This was at Penn National against inferior company. He's out there on the front end. This is absolute hands and heels. He buries the field, earns a 98 buyer and a raw 126 Timeform US rating. Now, admittedly, those figs, based on what these other horses have come back to do, figs might be a little bit on the inflated side. But even if you take 2 or 3 points off of each of them, this horse fits in here. It's not like he's totally overmatched. From a class standpoint, perhaps this is a little bit of a test, but from a number standpoint, he's not that far off. And again, I think he's going to be forwardly placed.
Matt's got the big speed. Mike, you've got the horse coming into this race in one of the sharpest forms we're going to see on the page. That's the 2 home run maker, and boy, he's won 3 in a row and very impressively last time.
Yeah, this horse has gotten really good for Jeremiah Englehart. Last 3 starts, all of them over this track, and he's won all 3 of them. The margins of victory are not big, but he's been much the best in all 3 of those wins. That includes the last one. This is the Fire Plug Stakes we'll look at now. And yes, this is a race where he sat right in behind the lead the entire way. You can see him there in the blue silks. He's got a chance if he sits it out in there. He's going to get through on the inside, but his rider's not going to play that game. He's going to angle him to the outside here as they approach the 8th pole. And he's just going to close this field down under strong handling. This is not a horse who is going all in to run this field down. This is a very impressive effort. And I think most importantly for this race, he finally got a figure this time, a 96 buyer for that win, and that's going to put him right in the mix here. If he can run it back, and if he gets a trip like the one he got last time, sitting in behind the speeds, he could be dangerous in the lane.
So Matt's got one of the speeds, you've got one of the sharp horses, I've got the horse with upside, the number 9, It's Good to Be Us, a very lightly raced 4-year-old. He has only started 4 times in his career. He's got a big pedigree. He's by Tap It Out, a Great Hot, who won both the Raven Run and the Santa Maria, a very talented runner in her own right. It's Good to Be Us was away for a long time, returned to the races off about a 7-month layoff at Parks on January the 8th. And let's take a look at that race right now. It's Good to Be Us, you know, had to go for the front. He had to deal with horses early. This horse on the outside is a stakes-placed runner. He's going to put that horse away. Now the horse in the white blinkers is going to try to make a run. It's Good to Be Us is eventually going to fend him off. Horse down on the rail is running. It's Good to Be Us is going to fend him off. This is a good effort going 7 furlongs off a 7-month layoff. Here into 90 buyer speed figure. It's a little bit light compared with some of the others in this race, but I believe second off the layoff, making his second start as a 4-year-old, this horse can move forward, and I'm not convinced he's a need the lead type. Maybe he can sit just off the pace, 15-1 on the morning line for Frankie Pennington. It's Good to Be Us, the number 9 in the General George. Let's move out west. The El Camino Real Derby is a Kentucky Derby points qualifying race. Let's throw up the field for the El Camino Real Derby. It's 100 grander going 9 furlongs on the Tapeta surface at Golden Gate Fields, carded as race number 7. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Morning line favorite in this race, Matt, is Kingly. No surprise, the horse is trained by Bob Baffert. He's got a big pedigree. He looked good winning his career debut. I have no idea if he wants a synthetic surface or not.
No, I don't think anybody does, to be honest with you. If you ask Baffert, I don't think he'd be able to give you a definitive answer. Let's just throw right into his most recent run. This is his first time against winners, and you're going to see him between horses in those green silks. Just watch how Lady Is the Change leads and watch him looking out at the grandstand. To me, these are all things that make me believe that, you know what, maybe this is a little bit too much too soon. Now you factor in additional distance out to 1 1/8. I think he finishes second in this race just on talent alone. But again, is this a little bit too much too soon? The other thing to throw out there, Baffert at Golden Gate over the past 5 years, really small sample size, but he's 0 for 5, and 4 of the losses came at odds of 2-1 or less. Kingly's the kind of horse, if he wins, I'll tip my cap and say, well done. I don't want any part of him.
I agree with you. Dan was multiple graded stakes winner on dirt. This is a full brother to Mohaymen, who is a dirt horse, half brother to New Year's Day, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in his dirt debut after competing in his first couple of starts on a synthetic surface. Mike, you want a horse that is experienced at Golden Gate, experienced on a synthetic surface, and this horse has just looked good against inferior competition.
Yeah, those are all the things that I saw, Dan. I don't want the Baffert horses, just like you guys said, and I just want the other seemingly logical horse in this race, another twist of fate. He's number 4 in this race. We're going to look at the replay of his most recent win. This is the one that makes it 2 for 2 on synthetic for this horse over this track. He's going to beat a couple of the same horses he's running back in against today, and he just wins this race very easily. Both of his starts so far over this track, he's looked just like this. He has good speed, he gets out to the front, and he does not stop running through the stretch. I like the way he's finished both times. He's going to take on more distance here, and obviously the waters get a little deeper, but that's as it should be. This is a horse who deserves a chance in this race, and I like both of his wins.
Matt, as we talked about in the stakes preview, your top selection in this race has been competing on turf in North America, but has races overseas on a synthetic surface that makes us think this might be the spot.
Yeah, it makes me think that Eagles song, The Plan All Along, for his connections, Mark Glatt and company, that this may have been the situation that they've been waiting for. They got him over here, first start 6.5 down the hill, and most recently we can take a look at this. This was his 2-turn North American debut anyway on grass. You see him tip out in those red silks. He's never going to actually get there. He's going to finish second by about 1.25 lengths, but I do like the way that he's finishing. And Dan, as you alluded to, overseas, look, he's 2 for 3 on synthetic. He's 0 for 7 thus far on grass. He's a son of No Nay Never, so I understand maybe 1 1/8 is going to be pushing it for him, but I did like the way that he leveled off and finished there, and I think he should be every bit of that 5-1 morning line. I'll give him a look in here.
I agree with Mike. I'm going to go with the 4, another twist of fate. I want them to use this horse's good natural speed to try to get to the front going into the first turn. He's a son of Scat Daddy. He sold for a lot of money at public auction, and he won his maiden in 1 1/16. I'm hoping he can get the 1 1/8 stretching out against better horses, but I like the way he opened up willingly on that field on the turn last time out. I think this horse has some gears. Another twist of fate, second choice on the morning line at 5-2. JK's play of the day. He has a daily double at Santa Anita. David Aragona of Timeform US previews the Risen Star.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Back from Las Vegas, back from the NHC, back with you guys, hoping to give you a little winning ticket here on a daily double at Santa Anita on Saturday, starting in race 8. In race 8, down the hill, turf 6.5, turf sprint down the hill. The weather's been a little bit dicey in California the last few weeks. It's been pouring rain today. Not sure what the weather's going to be like over the next few days, but I would imagine that with some dry weather, they'll be able to keep this race down the hill in the 8th race on the grass. I'm going to use 3 horses in this race. I'm going to use Compelled, the 4-horse, Belvoir Bay, the 7, and Painting Corners, the 9. Compelled is a filly that I've always thought would really excel down the hill. She has run down the hill in the past. The last race that she tried to run in off the layoff was taken off of the grass. I think getting that race under her belt and showing up in this spot should give her a much better opportunity. Obviously, Belvoir Bay doesn't really need an introduction. Been very dangerous down the hill. Is also dangerous at other distances. I think that shows a lot of her talent and ability. She'll be extremely tough in here. And then Painting Corners was one that I pointed out as this summer is winning, going 5 turf sprinting down at Del Mar, but then also winning at 6.5 down the hill. Shows a ton of versatility. I think that this filly could be tough and could be a little bit of a price with Belvoir Bay getting a lot of the attention, and I think Compelled could also offer a little bit of value as well. So I'll use those 3 horses in the first leg of my daily double, and then the last leg will be the Grade 2 Santa Monica. I'm going to be ice cold here into Marley's Freedom. Filly and Mare Sprint favorite. Obviously got a little bit of a trip there. Came back and ran well at Aqueduct. And off of a little bit of a break, it is back again. I think she's going to be extremely dangerous. I thought Dream Tree's performance last time was not very good, and I'm worried that maybe she's is not the same horse that she once was in the past before some of the setbacks that she's had. Celicourt was one that was coming into the Filly and Mare Sprint last year with a little bit of attention based on her performances that she's had throughout the year. The undefeated record was obviously something that was catching people's attention. Paradise Woods also should take some money with name recognition, making the barn switch from Richard Mandela now to John Sheriff's. All I need is Marley's Freedom in here. She's the 3-horse. We'll see you next week.
Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. I'm going to be taking a look at the major Derby prep that's taking place on Saturday. It's the Grade 2 Risen Star at the Fairgrounds. It's the last race on a 12-race card, and it's drawn a full field of 14 horses. Actually, 15 were entered for the race, with one stuck on the also eligible list. He's going to draw in as the number 13 Kingley did not ship for this race, so he will be scratched. We'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector right off the bat, because unsurprisingly, given the large field, we are predicting a fast pace to develop. With the number 7 horse Maniwa, who set the pace in the Lecomte last time out. He will be on the early lead, and you'll notice right away that the number 13 Kingley, who's not going to participate, is second in the pace projector. I don't think that fast-paced rating is really going to change, though, because when number 15 Gunnet draws into the race, he will be sitting second, just given these horses' early pace ratings. He's the one that's going to slot into that position right in behind Maniwa, so I don't think that fast-paced characterization is going to change at all, and that could really hurt the horses that are going to be towards the front of the pack, including the likely favorite War of Will. It'll help horses like Hog Creek Hustle, who was against the pace in the Lecomte last time, as well as a horse like Country House, who's going to be a bigger price in this race. Looking at the favorite for this race, War of Will, he got an outside post position. He's in one slot and probably post position number 13 if there are no other scratches. And he is just way the horse to beat off his triumph in the Lecomte last time. He earned a 110 Timeform US speed figure, which is respectable for this group. It's not the highest in the race, but it certainly makes him one of the main contenders. And just given the visual impression of how he did that last time, he really looked like he had no trouble handling the distance. The extra few yards are not going to be any issue for him. I think the real concern with War of Will is just the pace, because you look at the pace ratings for his last race, and that first quarter mile rating is color-coded blue, indicating that they were not going a very fast pace. It was really on the slow side. So the fact that he was able to get that trip up close to the pace, racing in the clear, that really benefited him in the Lecomte, and he was able to take the race over at the top of the stretch, and closers just had a really difficult time in that race. I mean, a horse who really excels at sprint distances, Maniwa, held on for third, and I think Hog Creek Hustle, who rallied up to be second, might have run a better race than it seems, because he was against the pace that day, and he had to rally wide into the race. War of Will, I think he's a horse with some real talent and even potential to get better because he's run well on both of his dirt starts. He's really bred to run all day on the dam side. His dam is by Sadler's Wells. She has produced another runner, Tacticus, who won marathon races going beyond 1.5 miles, I think even as far as 1.75 miles. So War of Will is a horse to follow along on this Derby trail, but just at a short price in such a big field, given that he needs a trip to work out, I'm somewhat against him in this race, though I think you have to use him defensively if you're playing exotics or multi-race wagers. Looking at Hog Creek Hustle, who was second behind War of Will last time out in the Lecomte, like I was saying, he was against the pace that day and actually ran quite well to rally for second. He had to make a wide run in the stretch and was passing horses, really the only horse to be passing horses in the lane. I was concerned going into that race that he might just be a closing sprinter because he had been so effective in that race at Churchill Downs back on November 10th when he closed impressively, getting a fast pace to run into. He wasn't quite as impressive next time out in the Sugar Bowl when the pace did not develop going 6 furlongs. But maybe I was just wrong about him. Maybe the mile on the 16th is totally fine for him because he proved that he had no trouble closing the gap last time, and I think he's a contender in this race. I prefer some others, and we'll see what kind of price he is. I think he might come down a little bit off that 8-1, but he is a horse that I would definitely use if I was playing any kind of exotics wagers. A horse that might kind of get forgotten and lost in the shuffle in this Risen Star is the number 3, Mr. Money. He was going to be one of the main contenders in the Lecomte last time, but was scratched out of that race. Trainer Brett Calhoun was saying that he spiked a slight fever going into the race, and they just as a precaution took him out and trained up to this Risen Star to make his 3-year-old debut. He's reportedly been trading pretty well. He ran that race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last time. He was beaten a long way by Game Winner, and they were just taking a shot. He went off at over 40-1, but I mean, it was a respectable effort. He at least repeated or actually slightly improved on the speed figure that he earned in his impressive maiden triumph the time before that at Churchill Downs. I think he's a horse that is really improving with added distance, and he might just kind of get lost in the shuffle here, as I was saying. I mean, he's 12-1 in the morning line. I think that's a pretty generous price if he ends up going off that high. And he's a horse that I would definitely use, though just given some reservations about the layoff, I'm not going to pick him on top. The horse that I'm making my top pick in this race is the number 9 Country House. We showed that pace projector initially that's predicting a fast pace, and I think he's the horse that is really going to benefit from the situation. He's just a one-run closer, and we saw that last time. I know the speed figure came back pretty slow for that Gulfstream race, but it's one of these races that you need to watch. You know, I'm not a big advocate of saying that horses who are visually impressive can run a lot faster, but this is a case where this horse would have run a lot faster given different circumstances, given a faster pace, given a cleaner break, because coming out of the gate, this horse just broke behind the field. I don't really know what happened. It's hard to see at Gulfstream because he's kind of out of the camera shot when they're breaking almost at the clubhouse turn in these mile on the 16th races, but he obviously left the gate behind the field, and you see those blue color coded pace figures. He was totally against it from a pace situation, and he made this wide run into the race, drew off so impressively in the lane. If you look at Trackus figures, he actually ran his final 5/16 of a mile in under 30 seconds. That really bodes well for horses that are stretching out in distance, and it bodes well for horses that are likely to get fast paces in the future. You see his Timeform US late pace rating of 104. That is the highest in the field, and you want to pay attention when we're predicting a fast pace, who has the highest late pace rating, because they're the horses that are most likely to take advantage of pace situations, and that is Country House. Just going 2 starts back, here in that massive 114 Timeform US speed figure for his runner-up finish behind Kentucky Wildcat. It's too bad Kentucky Wildcat's on the sidelines now, but he really validated that figure when he ran that really strong second-place finish in the Sam F. Davis last weekend. So I think Country House certainly stacks up against this field from a class perspective, and for me, I think it's a pretty good sign that Bill Mott is moving him right up into graded stakes company off that maiden win. It shows a lot of confidence for a trainer who usually takes his time with horses like this. So I see that 20-1 morning line. I don't think we're going to get that price. There's been a lot of buzz and hype around this horse. I'm not going to be shocked if he goes off at odds that are single digits in this race, even probably as low as something like 6 or 8-1. But to me, that's fair enough, because I think he's one of the most talented members of this field. And if he can handle the step up in class off a maiden race, I think he's likely to have a big impact on this race. So my pick is the number 9 Country House in the Risen Star on Saturday at the Fairgrounds. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Mike Beer, you love it when a plan comes together. 1 week a horse watch, the next week a best bet.
Yeah, it just feels like 5 minutes ago, Two Graces was the horse to watch, and now she's right back in 13 days later for her second career start. We're going to put the replay up. There's not a lot to see here. This is a filly who made her debut sprinting. You can see her at the back of the pack here along the rail, just got outrun early. You see his rider, 7-pound bug rider's not really asking her for too much, just letting her sort of find her way early in this race. She will run a little bit through the stretch, and then she will gallop out past this entire field at the end. And I really feel like that's the book on this horse. She's a filly who I think wants to go longer, and she returns for her second career start, stretched out to a mile. She's by Lemon Drop Kid. She is a half-sister to Dr. V's Magic, to Raffy's Treasure, and to Organizer. All three of them New York-bred stakes winners routing on dirt. This horse wants more distance. She gets it on Saturday. I'm hoping she appreciates the stretch out.
Matt, you like a horse that's won about 76 races in a row.
Yeah, she's on a bit of a roll right now. The Barbara Fritchie on Saturday at Laurel. It's race number 9. I like the 2 in here, Late Night Powwow. This is a West Virginia bred that she's only a half length away from being undefeated through 11 lifetime starts. She's a perfect 2 for 2 at Laurel Park. We're going to go back to her most recent run. Admittedly, this is a short field, 4 horses in a stakes race. This is essentially a paid workout, though. She absolutely pounds this field. And I like the fact that she doesn't have to have the lead. She's got a little bit of versatility. She's done some good things throughout her career, whether it is on the lead, whether it's coming from just off of it. And initially, when I looked at her, I thought, well, maybe she's more of a, she mostly races at Charlestown. Is there something about the bull ring that she just takes to it? You look at this race, again, admittedly against inferior foes. She's going to get an acid test on Saturday, but I love the way that she finishes here, basically hands and heels. The rider shows her the stick a couple times. She goes off on her own accord. I think this is an impressive performance, and maybe you do get every bit of the 7-2 because this is a very wide open race.
It is a very wide open race, and we got the old dueling best bets here on Out of the Gate. You put Bernick's Bank away pretty easily on the turn en route to that impressive victory. Going to be a little bit of a different story trying to finish off Miss Locust Point, the defending champion in the Barbara Fritchie. And she got back to her winning race last time out at Parks on New Year's Day. Let's go back to that race right now. Maybe this mare needed a little bit of a confidence boost. She dropped in class. She was able to press the pace on the outside, took over in the stretch, and kept right on going to win. Now, your best bet beat Miss Locust Point. Miss Locust Point's 2 starts ago, but Miss Locust Point was making her first start off a long layoff that day. I think John Service has got Miss Locust Point ready to go. I think she's going to go to the front and try to make it 2 in a row. I believe she's 6-1 on the morning line in the Barbara Fritchie. We thank you so much for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRFTV's offerings. Please follow on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, please follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break Out of the Gate.